I realize it's been a while since I posted a video. I have been busy, like super busy. I'm trying to think of what all I've done since then. Now, this is kind of cool. A buddy of mine works for a electronics recycling place, and he brought me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there I've got another one in the house. 6 3D printers that they had brought in, and so far tested that one, and it seems to be perfectly functional. The other one almost looks brand new. I already took it in the house, but it's a Dremel. It's like $1,500 3D printer that I got for free. This one I'm not sure about, but it is a triple extruder 3D printer, which is kind of cool. I may end up, if nothing else, buying a new motherboard or something to make this one work, if I have to. The power switch is busted on the side, so that's something I can fix relatively easily. If that's all that's wrong with it, then that'll be pretty cool. Plus, these are enclosed 3D printers, almost all of them. That one is a teeny tiny little thing, so I might actually turn this one into a laser engraver. I'm not sure, but that might be kind of an interesting way to use this instead. I've got an engraving head that I just never use, so laser engraving head. So I may actually take all of this off and just put a laser head on it instead of all this. And then I'd be able to just, engrave little small stuff if I want to. So anyway, I thought it was kind of neat. But the other one's a Dremel. And like I said, it's enclosed. I've been wanting to get an enclosed 3D printer, but they're just kind of expensive, and I've been buying other things. I did buy a laser engraver. So you can see where I engraved. That was just a test. I wanted to see how it would do on leather, and I just had that in my wallet. So it was kind of cool. And then I bought another one. So this one was a 10 watts output. And then I bought a 40 watt output diode laser. So I've got it on the way. It's like $1,000. It was on sale for Christmas stuff. So I've got it on the way here shortly. There's other reasons I'm doing that. I've got some stuff at work that I want to try. Cutting some foam for a project we have there. I bought this. It's a oxyacetylene cord reel, and what I'm doing, I used to have a little red half-ton pickup, but I found that my half-ton was kind of worthless at most things except for just driving around, but it had this tool body on it, and you can see it's no longer a pickup. It's a trailer. So this is going to be my little welding trailer. I've got generator, air compressor. I've got to finish covering all this on there. Mounted the tank sideways here, or up and down. I'll be able to put all my welding stuff in here. I'm going to take this off and repaint it, and it's going to go on my 1-ton over there. And I'm probably going to close this part in with some sheet metal and some braces. And I'm going to build a workbench that goes all the way to the bottom here and rolls out on a track. So you'll be able to open this. I'll probably end up making that bigger so it goes up and closes the whole thing. But essentially, open this, roll out a workbench that'll be roughly 6 to 8 feet long. And I'm debating on if I want it to be the whole 4 foot or 3 foot or 2 foot or whatever I need it to be. But it'll be on track, so it'll roll out. And then above that, so you'll have the workbench that rolls out here, and then above that, I'm going to have basically probably a smaller version of my plasma table. So I'm going to do a CNC plasma table similar to this, but that is more or less built in to my trailer. And I've got somewhere around here, that's my welder that I'm going to put on it. It's a 200 amp MIG, stick, all that kind of stuff. Good welder. I got it open box at Harbor Freight, and I have 2 more here. So this is the one that I use all the time for 90% of what I weld. This one I got from in a trade, and then it got dropped and kind of busted up a little bit. And I just keep a spool gun pretty much permanently attached to this one. That's what I use to weld aluminum if I'm going to weld aluminum. That way I don't have to mess with all the broken stuff. This one I got open box at Harbor Freight for like $400. Matter of fact, I got that one for about the same. I watched 2 guys walk into Harbor Freight, buy this welder, walk out, fire up a generator, weld one thing, maybe an inch of weld, pack it back up in the parking lot, walk it back into Harbor Freight, and they open boxed it, and it sat there for a month, and I eventually bought it. These things are about $900 now, roughly, and I think I paid about $600 then. So all of these I haven't paid full price for. I got really fortunate. This one I got for like $400, and the only thing that's actually wrong with it, too much crap in here, is this wire feed mechanism seems to be a little goofy. I don't know what exactly is going on, but I believe something is bent here. So when it feeds the wire, it will sort of go up and down, and it's offset, so it's not perfectly straight. And what ends up happening is it'll feed like that instead of just a consistent feed, which is what you really need. It'll sort of do goofy stuff. So worst case scenario, I can pull the feed mechanism out of this one and put in this one and hopefully fix that problem. Best case scenario, that's an easy fix, and I can just fix it. So it may even be something I can call Harbor Freight and get parts to fix it. But for, less than half price, I'm pretty happy with this. This is going to end up going in my welding setup, and then I've also got this, which is also going in my welding setup. So this is a 45 amp plasma cutter. That's going to go in it. And this oxyacetylene torch set. So these 2 tanks will go in it. Those 2 tanks will go in it. So you're going to have C25 straight argon, oxygen and acetylene. Or I think I got those backwards. And I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to put them because I've got a lot of tongue weight on this trailer right now. So right now, this is a little over 200 pounds here. I don't know what that weighs. It's not terrible, but when you consider that much weight this far forward of the axle, and that's where I'm hooking up, you shouldn't have, I think 200 pounds of tongue weight is your absolute max that you want to see. I can barely pick this up. So I'm already pretty close. So what I'm going to try to do is offset that weight back here. So I'm going to probably undo some of this because my door is going to end up changing anyway. Take this off. And then extend these boxes back further. So come back another 2 foot or so to where now when I put those tanks on here, I'm this far past the axle, and I'm hopefully offsetting some of the weight of there. Ideally, what I would have preferred is to have put all my tanks right here. That was the general idea. But this stuff weighs so much that you add this plus all of those tanks, and 90% of your weight is going to be from here forward. I don't really have a lot of room back here to put anything that's of any substantial weight. Plus, I'm going to have a workbench that rolls back into here. So you're going to have more weight. Granted, it'll be equal for the most part, but you're still going to have probably more weight forward of the axle than behind the axle. So I've got to fix that at some point. That's just something I've got to do. These lights, I have several of these. they're going to get mounted up here. And my welders, essentially, so you're going to have your plasma table here. I'll probably have a plasma cutter mounted here and a welder mounted here. And the gas lines and everything will run to it. And then I'm going to have air hose reels that I bought. I got these for like $20 off their normal price. So these are going to go on here, but they'll be under a cover. I'm going to take that one off. And that is also going to go in there. So essentially, I should be able to hook up to this one trailer, drive it to wherever I need to go, and have a MIG welder that's also, it's a multi-process, so MIG, stick, TIG here, plasma cutter here that will also be the plasma cutter for my plasma table that rolls out. What I'm probably going to do with the plasma table, set it up to where it's 4 foot this way. So when it rolls out, this is a 6 foot bed. So I'm going to try to set it up to where when it rolls out, I can go past the point where now I've got a at least 4 foot wide place that, say I've got a 4x8 sheet, I can roll it in this way and cut part of it and push it on forward and cut part of it and so on and so forth. I'd actually considered setting it up to where it also has rollers that would essentially capture. So say this was your plasma table. This is your one way that it traverses its axis. Then you have this axis, and then you have the up and down. If you replaced, instead of having this movement, this becomes stationary optionally. So I would have it set up to where it would do this. Or you park this in a specific place. So say it parks in the middle, and then you swap your control for this becoming a separate axis. So this is now just a stationary axis, and you have rollers here, and you have rollers here. These two rollers, you could slide your plate in, and then one roller and one roller would clamp down, essentially. So it clamps your plate between those rollers. And then you would have arms that would slide out under it to sort of support either side of it. So what you'd end up with is a table that would slide out here. You'd have rollers, and then, you know, probably somewhere stashed up there I could pull out like pole things. And then I could slide them in here, and then you'd have a foot that comes down here. So this would all be levelable. Eventually, I'll end up buying a couple more of these to put where I can basically, once I get it where I want it, I can level everything. And this essentially becomes a workshop on wheels. I've got a workbench that I can roll out that I'll use for whatever I'm doing. And then over here, the plasma table will optionally, it'll just stow in here. But when I don't need it, it's just in, it's not in the way. But if I need to plasma cut something, I can pull it out. Probably set me up some way of putting a laptop somewhere. I always keep a laptop with me anyway. And then I would be able to actually do all the plasma cutting here and then roll it back in when I'm done. So, you know, if I'm using the plasma table, it would just be like a essentially an open table. You wouldn't have a water table or any of that. It would just be an open table. So you wouldn't have a water table for cooling or anything, but you also wouldn't have the mess. It would just be slats, open slats that all the dross and stuff would just drop down. I don't know, maybe I could do a water table. I probably won't, but that's a possibility. Either way, one or the other would be rolled out. If I'm using the workbench, it's going to be rolled out. I could roll it back in and roll the plasma table out. So, and then, like I said, I'm going to go build a frame from here up, probably 2 to 3 feet high above this surface. That's, I don't know, 2.5 feet or so. So it'll be 4-ish feet high. And that's where my cord reels will be available. I'm also going to have a cord reel similar to that one. So you'll have a 110 cord reel like this. You'll have a hose reel like that. And you'll also have that hose reel, the oxyacetylene hose reel. So you'll have access to multiple ways of doing whatever job you need. And I'm going to plumb the power from the generator back into there. So I'll have like probably an 8 gauge cord that all of this stuff is going to run on. Obviously, I'm not going to run the welder and the plasma cutter at the same time. I'll only be using one of them to do stuff. I'm considering, I don't know if I can do it or not, but I'm also considering a multi-head plasma system. So you'll have the plasma cutter itself, plasma head with the plasma here. I'm also going to have oxyacetylene on board. So technically, if I wanted to do an oxyacetylene cut, I could use my oxyacetylene torch. So what I thought about doing is like a modular setup to where I can pick up one tool. So have it set up to where it clicks in and has like a set screw to hold it. So you'll have your plasma torch that you can just go click and cut whatever. When it's done, you could pull it out and have like a mount somewhere that you could kind of set those different ones in. You could also have an oxyacetylene torch that's already set up on one of these. So then you take that oxyacetylene torch, click it in, and if you wanted to cut something with oxyacetylene, say it's a 1-inch piece of plate, I've got a 45-watt plasma cutter, it can only do so much. So that's where that other one would come in handy. And I could cut thicker stuff if I wanted to. I could also cut stuff that's not requiring a lot of electricity because the oxyacetylene is actually doing the cutting. I'm just providing control circuitry. Another thing I thought about doing is having a tapping arm that can set into the work table. So if I want to tap stuff, I can tap it. And also having a drill head as another fixture. So you click the drill head in and you can, either probably have that turn the spindle on and off. The control system that we set up for it could turn the spindle on and off. It'd be the same basic idea as the relay that turns your gas on and off, or your trigger for your plasma cutter. Same basic idea. So it would use the same M code to turn that on. And what you would end up with, instead of just having a plasma cut part. So say, this is what I've found with my plasma table. I love my plasma table. It's awesome. And so here's something that I plasma cut. Your outside cut is beautiful. I cannot complain at all. A larger feature like this works really well. And then you have holes that you want to cut like this. So you can see how crappy those holes look and how not round they are. And maybe there's some tuning I can do in the plasma table, but compare those to the edge cut, and the edge cut's really good. So how do you fix that? If you essentially take a drill head and say you need a 1/4 inch hole, but you put an 1/8 inch bit. So depending on the control mechanism, you can see this isn't just absolutely crazy robust. Plus this one actually has an initial torch height sensor that does that. But if you have a 1/8 inch drill bit and you just keep a pack of them in the thing, just the weight of that with a drill bit, you can actually have it go above something, drill, for a certain amount of time. You don't even necessarily need to put a lot of pressure on it because you're only drilling an 1/8 inch hole. You drill the 1/8 inch hole with your drill head and then pick it up, move to the next hole, drill that hole. Pick it up, move to the next hole, drill that hole. And so for something like this, say it was thicker, I wanted to drill holes, I could drill them with the drill bit. I could then have a separate tool that does my bend lines. So say I want to put my bend lines here, I could either use a laser engraving head or a simple Sharpie that just comes into the flat part and goes, and there's my bend line. So I can actually have separate things where I can locate my bend lines, I can drill my pilot holes, and then I can cut, say these features if I want to with the plasma, but my holes I could drill if I need them to be very precise with a drill head. So now what I've got is holes drilled, bend lines marked, major features cut, outside cut with the plasma cutter would be the last step. And all it's doing is just cutting the outside. And then if that 1/8 inch hole needs to be 1/4 inch, I just take a 1/4 inch end mill or a 1/4 inch bit and chase that 1/8 inch hole out. So anyway, that's one of the many things that I'm going to do. And I've actually got probably what I'm going to end up doing. And I'm not sure if this axle is going to be my best choice. I may end up having to take that axle out of it and change it to a different axle, put brakes on it, all that good stuff. It's kind of turning more and more into more of a thing, but I could use these. So this is this came from a laser that I've got in the other shop, and then I've got these as well. So I could cut these tables here, and one of them could be my plasma table, and one of them could be my workbench. So I have to do a little bit of trimming, but I've already got the basics ready to go, and just reuse what I've already got laying around. So, sorry, I'm out of breath. Been doing a lot of stuff. I did put my backhoe back together. I bought my skid steer, took all this apart, and was going to use this front half on my skid steer. But the more I thought about it, I had a blowout on the hose that controls this function. And if you're in this digging, your skid steer's behind you, something happens, you don't know it, you just burned up your skid steer. Now you can't move your skid steer because it's hydrostatic driven, and you have major problems. So it actually is easier to run this than it is my skid steer in a lot of ways, because I can actually drive this backwards and forwards and maneuver this, where my skid steer, you have to get off the seat, get into the skid steer, run the skid. It's a whole thing. But yeah, this is my latest big project. I've also got another 1-ton truck that I'm taking it's a flatbed truck, and I'm taking the cab off. It's a 80s model cab like this, and I'm going to put a cab like that one on it. Just because the cab's rotten, and I like that body style better anyway. It'll actually be the cab that came off of this truck, matter of fact. So I'm going to keep the old cab because a lot of the parts work for this, and then I've got that will be my spare cab for the other one. So this came off of here, but obviously I've replaced it with this. This one runs, builds up a lot faster. It's a better pump. This truck, 99% of the time, I don't need air with it. I don't run air tools anymore. I just don't use air for 90% of what I do. So that air compressor is probably going to end up on this truck, or I had built another air compressor that was on this one at one point, and it's in here. It's this little smaller one right here. So that one may end up mounted on that truck too, honestly. The only reason I've not done that yet is this one might also end up under my flatbed, under the flatbed of my flatbed pickup, so I also have an air compressor on it. So, I guess it's a good problem to have too many air compressors to sit on stuff. But either way, you get the idea. So yeah, but yeah, that's a kind of quick and dirty thing. I'm gonna close up the bottom there and add another piece of angle across the bottom, get all that put in there. All of these welds I did with this little Harbor Freight little cheapy welder. I say cheapy just because of the price, but I'm telling you, if you're afraid to get into welding because of the cost, buy this. It's like under $200. Buy yourself a decent welding helmet and get to work. You can do a lot with that machine. It's 110, so you don't have to have a lot of power. It'll get you started. And you know, a lot of people talk about welding and you do the cursive E's or the half moons and all the little motions. What I've found with welding is you watch your puddle. Your puddle is going to tell you if you're penetrating or not. And it's like right through here. I know when I welded that, I saw it blend into both pieces of material. I have welded some seriously thick stuff with that little welder in there. As a matter of fact, we have an I-beam that was two pieces that I welded together at work, and the only way I could get to it to weld it was that little 110 welder in there. So it's a little over 20 feet. It's like 24 feet. And right in the middle is what I repaired with that little welder. And we've picked up 1/4-inch pieces of 4x10 stainless with that I-beam, and it's never been a problem. Now, I did weld the living daylights out of it, and I did hit the duty cycle of this welder several times, but don't think you have to have a $1,000 welder to get started in welding. You look hard enough, you can find one of these cheaper. But again, man, for the money, you cannot beat that welder. That's a fantastic little machine, and that will get you started. I started with the older, crappier version of that. It's the black one that was like $80 back in the day. I don't even know if they sell those anymore, but it was an AC welder. You could do a lot with them, but that one's better. So, you know, I like that little welder. It's handy as it can be. Eventually, that one will go back in that truck, but this one will have the multi-process, so I'll have stick, TIG, MIG, and plasma, and oxyacetylene all in this. And I've also considered in here buying one of those little Harbor Freight mini lathes, but probably not the Harbor Freight version. They've gone up a little bit too much. But if I bought one of those mini lathes, I could also have a little lathe in here as well. So anyway, that's my quick and dirty update. So have a good day.